Welcome back to this week's episode of Behind the Workflow. And today's episode is a really special one. We're doing a deep dive team episode. All of our co-founders are here on our podcast interview today. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that we loved about podcast movement, some of the things in the industry that we're noticing are shifting and changing, and just some trends that we want you to be aware of, and just really what we took away from the conference overall. So my name is Simona.
And I'm Tally.
And I'm Fran.
I'm Neto.
And we are the co-founders of Northflow. So you guys, let's get into our conversation today. Everyone, welcome to our podcast. I'm so excited. I always love when we all get to hang out here together and we all get to be together. It's so fun. Like Tally and I have so much fun on our own just doing it, but when we all get to be together, it's so much fun seeing, everyone and being able to all be here. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so I want to ask you all a question to start off with. What is one word that you would use to describe the time/experience/event that was podcast movement? If you could pick one word.
I think on my side, I felt productive. I think it was a productive week just because we were able to talk on Tuesday, and I think it went really great. We were able to answer a lot of questions. Afterwards, we talked to a lot of people. We made some connections, even though it was not as full as we expected based on the past year. But we were able to talk to some great people and get some new connections.
My word would be invigorating. Talking to everyone and just being in different panels, which, by the way, I'm a little bit under the weather. That's why I sound different. But it would be invigorating overall because it was fun, it was energizing, but then at the same time, it was really tiring. But, at the end of the day, it was nice to get to see all of you guys, for all of us to be together, and also even meet some of our users. So that was pretty fun.
For me, the word would be educational. I got to speak with so many different people, learn all about their workflows, see some of the issues with their workflows, and see some of the things that we're doing really well, and also the things we can improve. And so we got some feedback from folks that are using the platform, some folks that we gave them just a demo or we talked about it. And we also learned about new features and features that just need to coexist and play together. And so for me, it was just a lot of learning, just took a lot of notes. And this week, it's been about just looking at those notes and saying, well, how do we structure this into something that makes sense within the next few weeks? And so we're getting close to the last quarter of the year. So how do we fit all the learning we took from the conference and kind of fit into this last quarter? So that's the bottom line for me.
No, that's a really good one. I like it a lot. And after you've all shared yours, two words that come to mind for me, I would say one would be validating, because it's always one thing to talk about, a product online, on social media, through email, talking to people, doing demos and all that. But going, and because Neto, like you mentioned, we were on the panel on Tuesday and we got to speak, and we had a really good turnout of people who attended our sessions, people who want workflows and systems, people who were so eager to book demo calls, which is fantastic. Which, if you're listening to this right now and you want to book a demo call with us, you can do that. The link is in the episode notes below. But it's always nice to have that validation, because you can create anything that you want, but if people aren't wanting it or accepting of it or want to take a next step with it, then you kind of just, it's like, what are we doing, So I thought that was really cool. And then I think another one might be expansive in a lot of ways. Like the show is really expansive. So kind of in alignment with going down as an agency owner versus, a SaaS company, talking to different people, having different conversations, and being able to expand the conversation in a different way, I think was really cool.
Another thing that was really cool is that it was the first time that we actually got the whole team together.
Yeah.
So we've been working together. Some of us have been working together with this product for over 2 years now, and that was the first time we were able to, get the whole team into a room. We'll brainstorm a lot of ideas, and we came up with a lot of other ideas, and like Fran said, hearing some feedbacks from the users and people that are like wanting to try, but they're like on the fence, and discovering why they're on the fence, and it was really good.
Yeah. And
I love that.
there's one thing though I can add that I think that can be informational for who's listening. One of the things that we found to be really interesting, and it was also a big validation for us, is the fact that we've always considered AI as an assistant for creation and not the creator. And we wanted to hear from folks to see if they use AI mostly for creation or for the other stuff. That's the boring stuff they have to do, scheduling and creating tags and things like that. And I think the response was overwhelming. Most people, they're just basically
Mm.
trying to use AI as an assistant, but they want to keep creating things as humans. And I think that that was a big validation because we've always used this as our thesis, but we never got to actually speak to a lot of people and kind of hear from them what they think. And so when we were giving our talk, I brought that up and I made sure to look around and see their faces. And I saw a lot of people just shaking their heads, and I was a little concerned because I was like, If it's the opposite, I'm screwed because I'm just." But most people literally just, I saw most people shaking their heads, and a lot of people afterwards came to talk to me and say, "Yeah, that thing you mentioned about AI, that's literally the way I
Mhm.
look at it." And to me, that was such a big validation because that's the direction we're going.
I love that. And this kind of brings me to something. So I did sit in on a couple of different sessions while I was there, which is shocking because I really never get to sit in on many sessions. And I know, Tally, you and I, the whole week, we were like, we got to go to this different session. And then afterwards, you were like, I didn't get to go to nearly as many as I wanted to. I think I sat in on like 2 or 3 the whole time that I was there. But I did catch one of the keynotes, which was really cool. And the keynote was between, it was Sounds Profitable and talking a little bit about the merger and like all that kind of stuff, which I think it's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see like what happens with shifts. I don't have an opinion either way of, is it good, is it bad, is it this, is it that? Like, I think that any type of change is never always easy, but I think that any type of change always shakes up things in the industry, right? So in whatever industry that you're in. So I thought that was a really cool session to attend. And I think that there's a focus right now in the conversation on really honing in on creators specifically, and not just people who are using podcasting for businesses, but people who are using shows to actually create something that's an extension of themselves. So, kind of in alignment with what you're saying, Fran, like, we have all of this AI, we have all these tools, all these things that we can use to create whatever it is we want to create, but are we creating it, in a way that's authentic, or is the AI trying to like replace the there's like a very fine balance there. I'm really curious on your guys' thoughts and also to see how it shifts in the industry in like the coming months and years.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions that I got asked to. It was related to AI, and I think one of the things that I said was I think AI is really good and we should use it. We are on this phase of, we should try to use as much agents as we can. This is going
Mm,
to be helpful. This is going to save a lot of time. But one thing that people have to be careful is like not to replace their whole show and their whole content and make AI create the whole thing for them because this might hurt their audience because people will listen to, for example, to your podcast, Simona, and they listen because they like what you bring to the table and the ideas that you have and how you communicate. If that sounds too robotic and it sounds too far from who you are, people will stop listening. That's plain simple because I can go straight to ChatGPT and listen from there instead of, going to a podcast. So
mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
this is one thing that people needs to be careful, and it's something that we're trying to incorporate into Northflow as well. I'll help them with AI, but not actually replace their ideas and give them power to keep producing and keep creating instead of being
Yeah.
replaced by AI.
Absolutely.
Mm,
In fact, to add on to what you're saying, Neto, I think there's a lot of tools, AI tools, that are popping out nowadays, and they're not necessarily great. In fact, they're gaining a lot of popularity due to the fact that they're helping people create stuff. But what ends up happening is that it basically dilutes the real content that people are looking for. And so how do we work in a way that we offer AI that will actually help people create more and be productive without the boring stuff? So that's been the thing that keep repeating over and over. And what we found is that there's a lot of things that are so boring and but still needed, like research. If you have all the
mm-hmm.
data you need, AI is excellent to condense it down to something that you can work with and then create your own content out of it. So assigning things, publishing things, those are things that we can implement it and we can make it so useful so that all of that nitty bitty stuff that oftentimes you spend so much time doing, now you don't have to do it anymore, but you can focus on the creation part. And now you can listen to your audience and use what you're hearing from them, use AI to research, to create some sort of guideline in order to create really good content, and then go back and create the content yourself in a natural and authentic way.
Yeah.
So I think we're all learning how to implement AI the best way possible in our businesses. But all these AI tools that are popping out nowadays, it's just creating a lot of noise in the space, and it's just really hard for us to kind of figure out which ones are actually being super useful or which ones are just diluting content throughout the internet.
Talking about AI, we talked to a person, and she has a podcast, and she started like brainstorming with us because she receives hundreds of requests for people that wants to be interviewed on her show. And one bottleneck that she has is like, I don't have a way to validate if these people they know how to talk in front of a camera, if they have a good content. And we were talking with her, and this is where AI can come and really help you, because it can give you a whole research and talk to the person that it needs to be interviewed. It can create questions, it can generate some topics, but this is something that we can use AI for, and it's gonna save her. We're already thinking on implementing something like that eventually, and this is gonna save people a lot of time, and it's I think it's a game changer.
The way that I see that a lot of creators are thinking about AI, it's more of like a creative partner and like an assistant, as you guys mentioned, instead of like actually replacing and creating the content for them.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. And I mean, I've been creating content in the podcast industry for, since 2018, since when I started my show, my first show. And I've never been a fan of AI content creation tools. I've never found it helpful. I've never really understood, like, you put your transcript in and then it's going to give you all of these different posts. And like, while in some ways it's helpful, everything is so templated, it's so step and repeat, and it takes your own self out of it. But I like to use my own thoughts, my own words, my own, perspective to feed into the content and then have it, drafted and created, in the way that sounds like me, if that makes any sense. So, like you're saying, a way to help in the content creation process, but maybe not have it done like fully for you. Even tools like Opus Clips, for example, amazing tool for a lot of people. But one of the challenges that I've seen time and time and time again with a tool like that is that you're not always picking clips in spots that are the most exciting or things people actually want to watch or hear. You know what I mean? It just kind of comes from like the middle of an episode. There's no context around it and it doesn't make sense. And so where it can become sort of a problem, if you will, I'm not here to debate content creation on AI, but in my opinion, where it can become a little bit of a problem is when you're doing that and you're putting so much time and energy into it and you're putting out like 15 clips a week, but those clips aren't doing anything, right? They're not doing anything because they're not working towards a bigger goal. So another one of the sessions, and I'll give you an example that I sat in on. There's two podcasters, Tony and Ryan. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them. I can't remember if they're out of New Zealand or Australia, Talia. I think maybe New Zealand. And anyways, they just started showing up on my TikTok algorithm like over and over and over again, but they're so funny. And they were one of the conversations, they were one of the talks that I got to go to. And it was so fantastic hearing what they had to say. I mean, Tony wasn't there because she broke her foot, so she had to go back home. But Ryan was there and he did kind of like a fireside chat. And they talked a lot about content creation. And that was like some of the biggest takeaways that I got from Podcast Movement was how are they actually creating content for those viral moments? How are they actually creating content in a way that's going to make your listener resonate with what it is that you're putting out there? And one of the things he said was he crafts content with the end in mind. So he'll think about like a segment or a clip or whatever, or a part of the conversation that they're going to talk about. And he kind of formulates in his head, like, hold on, this moment could be a very viral moment. So how do I word this question, or how do I make my reaction to be not fake, but kind of something that'll be good to be clipped in, post production and editing and so on. That's very hard to get with content creation AI tools only. You miss that, right? It doesn't pick up on those different things. So I think it's a really interesting conversation between the two of them. But I thought that was a really cool tip. And, even just like simple things like truly going back to the basics, being disciplined, being consistent, creating content that is going to like move the needle forward, but it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like, just as long as you're there, you're showing up, you're adding something that's valuable into a space that's already can be pretty saturated. I thought that was a really, good tip, because there is no hack. There's no fast tracking like way. I really think you have to just be disciplined. You have to be consistent. And if you want the results, you just got to put in the effort. And like AI is great and can help with a lot of that. And also, some of that stuff, the best results come from manual. That's just my opinion. Wow, that was a whole tangent. Go ahead.
I think that was great. I think one of the things that goes really well with that is that for those involved in this industry long enough, they will know some creators they used to follow and love for a very long time, and then you can see that slight change on their content, which
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
basically like be pre AI and post AI. But there's creators, you'll find some creators that are still consistently being the same. And so same jokes, same ways, and same clips. And one of the people that I really enjoy following, and for example, Pat Flynn, it's the same guy, it's the same personality, it's the same thing. You don't see a lot of the copy and paste kind of thing. It's him. He's sharing his experience and the things he's done in the past. But some other creators, which I won't mention any names, you will see that they have literally changed from a few years ago, and nowadays they're so it feels very very watered down. Basically, it's super.
Yeah.
It's no longer authentic. That I guess that's the bottom line.
You know what's so interesting about this? I was on a call with a client the other day, and we were talking about content creation and all the things. And there's someone that she follows. I can't remember the girl's name, but she's huge, like huge in her industry. Like the girl we were talking about her content. And the person had been getting so many comments from followers, from people in her community, and so on, about how her content looked AI generated and at how it looked robotic. And it was so interesting. And so it was really funny. So we had a call, and probably, I think it was like the next day, she posted a post on social media. The girl did. And she was like, I've been getting comments that people think my content is all AI generated. Like, no, this is me. Like, I'm just recording on like on a white screen and so on. But if you go and watch the content, it looks so overly polished. It's like, where is the personality? I just thought it was so interesting and like timely. It was just really funny. Like we were talking about it, and the next day she put out like an apology of like, no, this is really me. It's really my content.
Yeah, I think that plays really well with the concept the Japanese came up with. I think it's called wabi sabi, which is beauty in imperfection and things that are handmade, so that it's never going to be the same or perfect. And I think we all like to see the imperfection of those that we follow, because we want to see that they are basically full of flaws as well. They will forget something, they will mention something and then regret they mention it. And so those things are basically what makes people people. And I think that's what we miss nowadays. But I think there's a time and a place for AI. In fact, we've seen tools that actually creates a whole entire podcast and creates with the voice and
Mm-hmm.
all that. And I think there's a place for that. I don't think it's like you should never use it. I think definitely there's a situation where that's useful. In fact, I spent a lot of time looking for podcasts like that. So I would be like, well, let me see if there's anything that makes sense for me to listen that's fully AI generated. And I found a few podcasts that were AI news and things like that, which is basically here's everything that happened this week, and it's AI generated, but instead of going out there and trying to find it yourself, here's a condensed version of it. That makes so much sense, and I love it. It's just 10 minutes. I listen to it and done. So there is a time and place, but when it comes for you to
Mhm.
create a personal brand, it's really hard for you to do that when it's not you. Even if you tune up your tone of voice with AI, your brand and all of that, it's still not you. And so it's not fully
Yeah.
authentic. And I think that's the one thing we miss, the human aspect of creation.
Really good points. Okay, so if we think about the event overall, all the people that we got to talk to, what are some of the trends that you're seeing? So, obviously, content creation, AI, and some of the things that are going to be important for us at Northflow to start to implement moving forward. We haven't really done a marketing update in so long. So, maybe a little bit about what we are planning on doing as we continue to grow and welcome in our new users.
Definitely. Yeah. And I can take that one, and Tally and Neto, please
Yeah.
pitch in on that one. One of the things that we're always listening for feedback and feature requests. And one of the things that we just keep hearing over and over is how do we onboard guests in a way that's not cumbersome and or even difficult for the guest. And in fact, we spoke with one specific person for over 2 hours, and she was basically guiding us through the process that she has in order, because she has a form and people will fill out the form, and she now needs to validate if this person is a good person to come into the show, not in terms of like character, but in terms of is this person able to talk fluidly and so forth. And so she has a whole process that's super cumbersome, and she's basically walking us through it. And then there's also the process of finding guests and reaching out to the guests and so forth. And that's been one of the things we keep hearing over and over. And we're now looking into the best ways to implement it. And just like everything else we ever do, we go back into the best practices, talk to the best folks we know that do it really well, and then we try to turn that into a software. And so I think we're finally getting to the point where we're looking into something that will be pretty cool and makes me excited to use it. So that's one. And the other thing is, we hear a lot of people saying, I want to see everything that's happening in my workspace, all of the tasks, all of the guests, all of the production. How do I see that? And a lot of the tools out there, project management systems, they will give you that, but they will give it in a way that's almost like a fire hose on your face. And it's just too much. And so we're looking into finding the best way to do this, and we're gonna take our very first stab at it probably within the next month. So I'm excited to share that with everybody.
Can't
Yeah.
wait to see how it's going to turn out, especially the guest part, because as we starting to get guests here behind the workflow, it's definitely going to be very useful.
1000%. I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be awesome.
The trend that I was seeing also was related to guests and onboarding people to be invited into your show, and everyone seems to have their own process, but at some point they all converge into the same steps, and this is really interesting for us because it gives us some base on where we can build this flow inside Northflow and give them a really nice tool that they can use. And the goal is always first save them time and make the process as smooth as possible.
And Simona, do you think this is a good place and time to share also some of the mistakes we've made in terms of building this product and how we're trying to correct it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, I
So
think so.
I'll try to do this one super quick. So one big thing we learned as we started building Northflow, we were just like, let's just build features and make them work well. And recently we realized that we have all the features everybody needs, but they need to work super well together, because our goal is not just to build a bunch of features, but to build an ecosystem that everything depends on each other and they work really well. And so now we're trying to go back and looking into all of the features we have, all the forms, calendar, project management system, tasks, and try to connect them in such a way that's natural to use it. And and that's been a little painful because we kind of knew that was going to happen, and we decided to just move fast initially. And now we're going back and adjusting it. And our greatest fear is to look more like products that we see out there, products that claim to be super high level, but they actually have features that are all spread out the place, all over the place, and it's really hard to connect. And so now our focus is to make our product works so well together with all of the features so well integrated that as you're working through a task, things are just it just knows what you need next. If it's a form that somebody fills out, that creates a new episode, that uses a new template, those things, we're trying to make those things work so well together. And I'm super excited for this next phase because those things will be so obvious. And so, in fact, another takeaway from the conference is that on the internet, showing the product to people, and people usually have their own systems and processes. When they look into the way we're doing it, they usually feel like, man, I have to switch. I have to go through this learning curve. But at the conference, people gave us full attention because they're there in person. And so they had to actually pay attention at that moment to what we were doing. And what I've noticed is that when we're doing this online, people are multitasking with multiple tabs open. But when we were doing that people face to face, they saw so much more value. So one of the things that we're trying to improve now is connectivity with between the features that we've built, and how do we have the same impact with people that are using the product for the first time that we had at the conference. People looking at it for the first time still having the same impact as if they were sitting right next to us as we introduced them the product. And so that's one of the biggest challenges for us right now, and that's the biggest mistake we're trying to fix. We built features, they work really well together, but they can work way better. And that's the one thing. And I think if you're using Northflow today, you will eventually see some of those changes, and hopefully it will be so seamless that you will notice, but you will feel like it's not even there.
1000%. I think this is such a good point, because when you create a new product, it's always solving for a problem, right? What problem are we solving for? But having that said, there's always going to be enhancements that you're going to do. There's always going to be things we're going to go back, we're going to tweak, we're going to change, we're going to make them better, right? It sometimes, if a product solves 90% of your challenges, sometimes, more often than not, it's better to stick with that specific thing. You know what I mean? Like that, and I'm talking about Northflow specifically, than going and bouncing around and trying out 1,700 different things, wasting your time, wasting your energy, when you could just instead work with the team directly, like our
Absolutely.
team,
Yeah.
that's so excited to help you build whatever feature. Because if you think of any product, like if you think of ConvertKit, if you think of Go High Level, if you think of MailChimp even, there's an initial iteration of the product, and then there's the version after feedback, right? And so I think that's really important. It's like, yes, you need to know maybe when to like kill a product and when it's not worth it anymore. But there's also something to be said about having people who are using a product and then being able to make tweaks and changes to better serve,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. We knew we were going to make a lot of changes from the beginning, but we didn't have full visibility of what we wanted to build. And now that we do, I think we have a much cleaner roadmap in terms of
Mm-hmm.
features and improvements. So I think it'll be fun.
I love that.
And with this evolution of us learning and understanding what people want and what people are willing to try, and we received a request yesterday from a user that she was having some issues, and she sent us a screenshot of her process, and it's like a Trello board with tons of different things, and she was doing all like the production schedule in there, and
Oh my
we
gosh.
were able to join her, and within like maybe 15-20 minutes of a call, we were able to explain, oh, you can do this just using our planning, and we just showed her the planning, and she was like, oh, that's really interesting, and she actually made a request, and we were about to push an update, to send which was just a small request just to show dates on that part of the product. But one of the things that we also realized, and talking about the mistakes, is like, how can we show what we build, and the value of using Northflow when people join right away, because like Fran said, we build a bunch of features, but people need to understand whenever they join what is actually what we're trying to solve, and how Northflow can help them. And sometimes it feels like that, because sometimes when you hop into a call where we're just talking to someone in person,
Yeah.
it takes us 5-10 minutes to explain how it works, how can they do stuff inside Northflow, and they're like, oh, this is amazing. I didn't know it was like that. So it's a feeling that we have, and we're learning, and we want to make the product simpler and easy to understand. We want to reduce the onboarding, and it's a bunch of stuff that are coming that's going to make life so much easier.
Yeah, and I think, Neto, to your point, those things are the expected things at the beginning of a product. And so
I
we knew
agree.
that the lifetime, time to value would suck at the beginning. But we decided to take a pass anyways because we need to know what we need to change. We don't know what we don't know. So I think we've done
Yeah.
a really good job, and that's kudos to you and also to Tally and Simona for coming together. Tally, from hearing from all the folks out there, and Simona, because this is her world and she's able to look at it. And there's been so many times where she looked at it and like,
My
guys,
world. I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
And she's like, guys, I know you spent 2 weeks working on this, but it sucks. Let's try to rethink this. And so I think we don't know what we don't know. That means, well, time to value will be a difficult one for us to solve, but I think we're close. I think we're very close. And based on all the feedback, and I feel very fortunate because we do get a lot of feedback, and a lot of startups they don't get as much feedback as we do at this stage.
True.
And so I'm very grateful for the fact that we get those feedback, and that really helps us go back into the lab and restructure things. And so to your point, Neto, I agree with you. I mean, there's so much and tiny and small details we need to work on, but I think now we understand what we need to work on. And before we were just kind of like throwing the spaghetti on the wall and seeing like what's sticking. And now we see it, and now we can fix it. And that's when things become fun. I think going forward, will be a lot more fun than it's been so far.
Awesome. You guys, as we start to round out our conversation, if you want to each share, what was your personal favorite part of the whole event of Podcast Movement? And then we'll close out our conversation.
I can start.
Yeah.
My favorite part was actually meeting a couple of our users. It was just so nice to actually like put a face, like with the name and be able to talk to them and like just overall like continue to build that relationship, not just with her. That I'm talking about a specific person, Audriana. I'll go ahead and give her a shout out because I've been wanting to meet her for a while. But just like meeting more people, and we're gonna have some of these people that we met there here as a guest soon as well. So it's just overall, it was really good experience meeting everyone.
Totally. For me, was also meeting some of the advisors. We're, onboarding now and geeking out with some of them. But I would just say this, Simona, kudos to you and to everyone else that usually go to shows and conferences like this because it is so tiring and it's so draining. I know we have one of the pictures that both me and Tally were just sitting on the floor and just completely drained, tired. And so, again, kudos to you and to everyone else that's used to do this and they're basically capable of doing it so well. And the other person that I was really happy to see was Anna. And, it's always awesome to sit down with her and to hear her and to you basically just absorb a lot of the learnings. And she knows so much. And I love just being next to her. There's so much to know and to learn. And she's always bringing people and she's like, have you met this person? Have you met that person? And
Yeah.
so I think that was incredibly fun, but I don't know that I could do this often. So that would be it for me.
I know. She's like the mayor of conferences. She has all the key
Love
takeaways.
that.
She meets everybody. It's so amazing. And she's a really, really good connector, which is fantastic. And honestly, on the topic of like going to different conferences, I very often think to myself, I'm like, man, I'm like, why? Like, I never feel like I'm getting ahead. Like, I never feel like I'm like, doing enough things and whatever. And then I look at how many conferences are like in my calendar and like how much I travel to like go to different events and this and that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, it's energetically, it's a lot of energy. It's just a lot of energy. So go ahead, Neto. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I don't know how you do it. It's amazing. But besides of meeting some of the users and some of the advisors, I think it was to me it was really important to meet the whole team, especially Daniel, which is part of our team. We were able to get a lot of really good conversations while he was here. We did a lot of brainstorms, and it's very exciting because now we are planning so much stuff that's coming, and we're going to be working together. We talking about some new features and new technologies, and that's the kind of conference that I like. Not to say that
Neto's
that
going to be going to
that
all of the tech conferences. No, I'm just
yes, exactly.
kidding. That's
So
awesome.
so yeah, that's I think that was my favorite part because connecting with like us connecting at we had dinner together, we had the whole team, and then we had several other meetings, and brainstorming. That was fantastic. I think
I
that was
agree with
my
you.
favorite.
I agree with you. I was thinking about like my favorite parts as well. And I think definitely hanging out all together was one of my favorite parts. And then the other thing too is I always love, going to different conferences because sometimes you see a lot of the same people and you see these people, but you see them, every time you go to a conference. So it's nice to catch up with people again and like see your friends and, see different people in the industry. So I think that for me is probably my favorite part, and also sharing the stage with you all. That was so fun. Yeah, it was a super fun conversation, and I think we're really good at it. So if you're listening to this and you're looking for your next panel at your event, we're really good. I'm just kidding.
Just
And
call
we're
Which
really
us.
fun.
yes, yes. Another thing too, for those that didn't go to the conference, they announced that everything is going to be live for free. So all of the
Mm,
panels, all of like the keynote speakers, they're I think within the next few weeks they're going to be putting that live.
that's
So
amazing.
that'll be really good, and we'll share ours for sure.
That's fantastic. I love that. Usually you have to pay for that. So I feel like that's such an amazing perk slash benefit. Fantastic. You guys, thank you so much for all being on here today. This was so fun. I love when we all get to chat, together. And if you're listening to this right now and you want to give Northflow a try, the link to do so is in the episode notes below. So be sure to go and create your account. And you can also book a demo call with us too. We love doing demo calls. We love meeting you. We love hearing about your process, your workflow. And then, of course, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, you can do that as well. Just reach out. We're always looking for incredible guests for our show. I think that's it for us for now. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week behind the workflow. Bye for now.